Hey, welcome to another one of Scott and Cindy's adventures. We're in historic Staunton, Virginia. We're going to take a ride on the Virginia Scenic Railway for a 3-hour out and back trip from Staunton through the Blue Ridge Mountains and back here to Staunton. So Cindy's here for a girls' family event, leaving me some time here to check out the old historic Staunton railway station. It's not where the Virginia Scenic Railway departs from, returns, but it is the old historic railway station, and AMTRAK does stop here. So if you want to ride the AMTRAK in and out of Staunton, this is where you want to come to. All right, so you can see, like I've said, AMTRAK does stop here. Staunton's a really beautiful old town. Right here in this area, there's all kinds of quirky little shops, restaurants, bistros, vineyard tasting rooms, a cidery, and all kinds of fun things to do. And just walking around the old station here, it's gorgeous, especially if you're a real train buff. There's the bridge where I started up from. Walks you up to the old Sears, something or other neighborhood. See some of the stores use old railroad cars for storage. See even a station depot, bistro, restaurant over here. Smells good. Haven't eaten there yet. Might try it out for lunch. Have to wait and see. And the actual station for the Virginia Scenic Railway is down the rails that way. It's sent it up that way a bit. And here's the street side. Depot grill down there on the end. Junction. Quilt. Pieceworks, textile studios, and antiques. Then the old original part of the depot down here. And here's the main passenger terminal. Along the road here. There at the end of the station is a French Cajun restaurant. Some seating for it down here. The loading platform. Tracks bending around the bend here. Here's a little map of the historic downtown area for you to get oriented. See if I can get this without too much glare on it. Some history about the Sears Hill Bridge. Started off that. History about the station itself, where it started. Used, modernized. The Staunton Confederate Transportation Center. How important it was to the Confederate Army. Alright, here we are at the Virginia Scenic Railway. Offices, restrooms, gift shop. An old freight train here on siding. And then you can see over on this side, the actual train we're going to be riding. 1, 2, 3, 4, looks like 4 cars, locomotive back over there behind the shelters. Guessing this is their offices. First car, next car, the restrooms. Third car is their gift shop, so let's go check that out. Gift shop, they've got t-shirts, hats, sweatshirts, collection of glassware. All right, come Christmas time, they do a Santa Express. And some of their other offerings are ales and rails. Get a good sampling different beers. The Allegheny Special goes down a different part of the state. It's supposed to be really pretty. We did the Blue Ridge Flyer through the Blue Ridge Mountains and the tunnels. They also offer bourbon and barbecue, if you're into that. And Culinary Crossings, a chef's table series. The Louisa Flyer, a new one they've got where they start off in Louisa. And Murder on the Menu, Murder Mystery. They were doing that in one of the cars. Offer a Sip and Savor Express. Sunday brunch. And other events throughout the year. All right, here we are on board the Virginia Scenic Railway up in the dome car where we get a good view looking out as we go. This is going to be the south side of the train as we move along. So, looking forward to this trip. Included in your ticket is a very large offering of non-alcoholic beverages. They also offer wine and other spirits for a charge.
This route's beginnings date back to 1836 and was completed by the Virginia Central Railroad. More to come later on the history of the line. Ivy is located in Albemarle County. Ivy Creek flows through this area of western Albemarle County. Present-day Ivy was once known as Woodville, named after the prominent Wood family, between 1826 and 1851. With the arrival of the railroad in 1851, the rail stop was originally named Woodville Depot, later changed to the Ivy Depot by 1859, after Ivy Creek, and later shortened to just Ivy by the 1950s. Along the way, you will pass through the famous 3,984-foot-long Blue Ridge Tunnel, as well as the 100-foot-long Little Rock Tunnel. You will also get up close and personal with numerous rock cuts dug out by the Blue Ridge Railroad in the 1850s and pass by hidden orchards of Albemarle. During today's trip, we will be pointing out some interesting historical facts about the communities through which we pass. Be sure to listen, for that will be your indication of an upcoming narrative. So sit back and enjoy the trip as we travel over one of America's most historic railroad routes.
All right, coming up on the Staunton AMTRAK station where I was before. See over there the shops and storage, the old train cars.
No, they haven't opened anything.
This is the bridge I was on.
First envisioned to be by its designers over a century ago. Our trip begins in Staunton, located in Augusta County. Staunton was first settled in 1732. The Virginia General Assembly established it as a town by 1761, and it was later incorporated by 1801. Staunton is so named after the wife of colonial governor Sir William Gooch, a Mrs. Lady Rebecca Staunton. Prior to the coming of the railroad, farmers in the area had no way to get their goods to markets in eastern or western Virginia. So that is exactly why the railroad was built. When the railroad was completed, farmers could sell their goods to stores in Charlottesville, Richmond, and many other cities. The focal point for shipping those goods was at the local railroad station, where boxcars would be loaded and then shipped to their destination. The railroad allowed the towns in the area to grow and prosper. Able to spot one of Buckingham Branch's freight customers, the Augusta Co-op. The Augusta Co-op started in 1929 when 205 farmers gathered at Weir's Cave, a little rail stop just north of here. The farmers decided to join together and collectively borrowed $3,000 to be able to effectively market and distribute agriculture products and farm supplies to local patrons. In 1932, the co-op expanded. Then, 20 years after its original opening, the co-op created a retail store and corporate offices, moving everything into the location you see here today in Staunton. We're now approaching Brand Siding. This is a track siding that's slightly over 1 mile in length. This location is used for trains to be able to safely pass each other. over a portion of the Buckingham Branch Railroad's Richmond and Allegheny Division. This division extends 199 miles between Richmond and Clifton Forge, Virginia. On this line, the Buckingham Branch Railroad delivers rail cars to or receives rail cars directly from 3 other railroads, including CSX Transportation, Norfolk Southern, and the Shenandoah Valley Railroad.
Salt and chive, salt and vinegar, barbecue, and more of everything down there. No problem. No worries.
The Rocky Motions put Cindy to sleep. Almost. Get a little further outside of town, start seeing some beautiful farmland in the States. And you could be one of the fortunate people who live right here next to the railroad tracks and listen to trains and go by all day and night.
As we ascend the mountain, we're getting ready to pass through the Blue Ridge Tunnel. If you listen for several long horn blows, that's an indication that we're getting ready to enter the tunnel. These long whistle blows are done as a warning to anyone who may be walking inside the tunnel to get out as a train is coming. The tunnel does have a gutter system beneath the track bed on each side, as well as a few spots in the wall where any individual who may not be able to get out of the way in time can duck into in order to not be smushed between the train and the close clearance of the tunnel. The Blue Ridge Tunnel was constructed between 1850 and 1858 under the direction of Colonel Claudius Crozet. Crozet was so chosen as the chief civil engineer by the Blue Ridge Railroad, which was overseen by the Virginia Board of Public Works, an organization which he had served on for several years. The Board of Public Works worked under the direction of the Virginia General Assembly, which had chartered for the purchase and financing of the railroad. More to come on Claudius Crozet later. Over 800 Irish immigrants and 40 enslaved African-American laborers were used to build the Blue Ridge Tunnel. Nearly 200 deaths occurred during its construction due to accidents and disease. The tunnel was the westernmost and longest of 4 tunnels Claudius Crozet was charged with engineering to cross the Blue Ridge Mountains and Rockfish Gap. The other 3 tunnels were called the Little Log Tunnel, the Brookville Tunnel, and the Greenwood Tunnel. The original Blue Ridge Tunnel was 4,237 feet long. At the time of its construction, it was known as the longest tunnel in the United States. From the eastern entrance, the tunnel slopes upward from an elevation of 1,430 feet to an elevation of 1,500 feet at the western end. Claudius Crozet's plan to construct the tunnel consisted of teams of workers advancing from both sides of the mountain, each team progressing roughly 26 feet per month, despite the use of their 3 8-hour shifts. Construction of the tunnel was done by drilling holes into the rock using a hand drill and hammer. The drill bit was held by a person called the shaker. His job was to turn the drill slightly after each swing and give it a shake to flip out the rock dust from within the hole. The person hammering the drill bit was the steel driver. He swung his hammer as hard as he could to pound the drill into the rock. Black powder was the explosive used during this tunnel, as dynamite had not been developed yet. Mechanization had not been developed either, so after each explosion, the men had to pick up the pieces by hand and put them into a cart to be hauled away. The workers were tasked with creating a tunnel for one railroad track that was 16 feet wide and 20 feet high. The design was elliptical shaped, seen as an advantage in providing adequate clearance, support for the tunnel, and cost less to construct. Now, you would think blasting through solid rock was the most difficult part of the tunnel project, but dealing with softer rock turned out to be much more challenging. When they encountered solid rock, there was no need for additional bracing to create a route for the tunnel, but soft rock did require reinforcing. The only way to do that was to use arching brick to shore up the ceiling in the soft rock areas. During construction of the western portal, workers exposed a fracture filled with water about 900 feet in. As a result, all these years later, the tunnel constantly stays wet. Ditches were added to the tunnel to funnel the water out. Workers also encountered ventilation problems, which were remedied through the use of a ventilating device so named after its inventor, Sir John Burgoyne. Today, only 2 of the 4 tunnels constructed by the Blue Ridge Railroad under the guidance of Claudius Crozet remain as operating tunnels, the Little Rock Tunnel and the Blue Ridge Tunnel. That's an indication we're getting ready to enter what's known as Little Rock Tunnel. This is one of the 4 original tunnels constructed by the Blue Ridge Railroad to get trains from Ivy over into the Shenandoah Valley. These long whistle blows are done as a warning to anyone who may be walking inside the tunnel. Staunton during the late evening hours. The train had been assigned an engine for its return trip to the valley that may have been the predecessor of the little engine that could. As the mountain grade increased, the engine's drive wheels began alternately to slip and grab, creating a jerky ride for both man and beast. The train struggled through the first 2 of 4 tunnels along the Blue Ridge Railroad. On board the train, no crew members were aware that the continual jostling and swaying had loosened some of the blocks securing the cages and wagons on the flatbed cars. Then, partway through the Little Rock Tunnel, the train jerked to a sudden stop. Train crew and circus staff got off the train with their lanterns and headed towards the rear of the train, which was still in Little Rock Tunnel. As they approached the tunnel, their concern worsened as sounds of howling animals mingled with human voices. Moaning could be heard, switching through the blackness with only legends. A mass of jumbled metal, moans, and animal noises lay within Little Rock. Several of the heavy stacked animal cages had come loose, and a top cage, having turned sideways inside the tunnel, was flung off the top of another cage and into a steam piano wagon on the car behind it, partially crushing the wagon. Unbeknownst to the train and circus crews were 5 stowaway boys who had snuck away from Staunton to Charlottesville to watch the circus and had snuck aboard the train for its return trip in the steam piano wagon. 2 of the boys were able to climb from the wreckage, but were badly shaken. 2 others were found inside the heavily damaged steam piano, regaining consciousness. The 5th boy was found underneath the toppled cage, crushed. Along with this one human fatality was a tiger who did not survive having been in the flung cage. Other animals were also injured when the train was jolted to a sudden stop by the cage getting wedged and flung inside the tunnel. The young deceased boy's body was left at the Afton Depot for his parents to retrieve. Injured animals were treated by veterinarians in Basic City. Arriving half a day late to Staunton, the circus train finally made its way into town, skipping the customary parade and several animal acts, yet performing a condensed show, proving the old adage, the show must go on. They say on some nights, you can hear the sounds of a tiger howling in the night, possibly that of the fateful circus train wreck in 1907.
One option you have when you buy tickets is to buy a boxed meal for an additional fee. So even if you don't buy the dining car, you can still get something to eat. We chose not to get one because we normally eat late anyways. After we get off, around 7 o'clock, we'll go find something to eat then. That's our normal dinner time. Halfway through the 3-hour journey, you get to your turnaround point, which our case was Ivy, and the locomotive disconnects and does a runaround to get to the other end to take you back to where you started at. At the same time, the conductor will turn the seats around so you're still facing forward as you go along. And everyone on our side of the train moved over to the other side, and vice versa. That way we could both see what's on each side of the train for the entire length.
Quickly approaching an underpass of Interstate 64. Interstate 64 runs east-west through the middle of the state, from West Virginia to the Hampton Roads region of Virginia, for a total of 299 miles. What's noteworthy about this section of Interstate 64 is it's equipped with an innovative system of airport-style runway lighting embedded into the pavement to aid motorists during periods of poor visibility due to fog or other conditions on the mountain.
Williams parking area for the trail that goes through the old railway tunnel. Biking trail.
Oh, yeah.
Back up through there.
Oh, so we're almost to the...
Kind of see behind the fence there.
Not really. Not, I mean, a little bit. The sun is hitting me right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see it. The girl's been. You just switch out.
She's running desserts. We're always running around.
Back over yonder out of sight now. Going through the tunnel. View of the dining car. Looks like they're getting their dessert now on the way back. And our seats are up there in the panoramic bubble up there on top of this car. I actually think, having done this, that sitting down here in the dining car, maybe even in the coach car, might actually have just as good, if not better, views. Just because we were just cramped in there so tight. Down that car is where they had their mystery dinner theater. The regular dining service was done here. I think on the other end of our car was restrooms and kitchen. But it was enjoyable. I had a good time. I made it back to the Depot Grill. Smelled so good earlier. Want to check it out. Part of the old freight part section of the depot here. Got some old appropriate artwork. Judging from the crowds, should be pretty good food. Alright, so Cindy got salmon BLT. Looks yummy if you like salmon. And I got the prime rib. That's probably what I smelled earlier. It smelled so good. Looks yummy, yummy, yummy. As an added bonus, you get to keep the glasses that your complimentary drinks came in. The soft drinks, juices, teas, lemonade, whichever that you got to choose from. You got some chips along with that too. You do not get the wine glasses. Those are not included. Final thoughts for the day. Fun, unique experience. Not a lot different from just driving through the area other than going through the train tunnel. Some people who went through the Allegheny run the day before said it was a lot more picturesque. So they have many other options there to ride on. Maybe take advantage of the dinner theater, or the sip and sail, bourbon barbecue, whatever tickles your fancy.